It's 5 a.m. and I'm about to get a car to the airport. I'm headed to Boston, and there I'm going to run into a couple of very important figures in the Irish whiskey industry. Billy Leighton, the master blender from the Midleton distillery, and Dave McCabe, the assistant blender. And the two of them are in Boston, and they're visiting the United States to introduce Americans to the wonders of Redbreast Irish Whiskey. And they may have an announcement or two while they're here, so I'm really excited about a couple of events that are coming up. So I'm packed, I'm ready to go. It's going to be a Redbreast heavy few days. I'm not mad about it. Made it to Boston. I'm here in the busy harbour area, noisy harbour area, and we've been told to gather at a certain spot because we're going to have an educational lunch, and apparently it involves birds of prey. So I think we've got a bird-filled set of activities over the next few days, but I know we've got this educational element followed by a pairing lunch, and that's all I know. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about it. Boston, of course, a huge Irish stronghold. The Irish have been coming here for generations. South Boston is practically 100% Irish. I'm here in the shadow of TD Garden, which is home to Irish-American well-loved franchise, the Boston Celtics basketball team. So I expect to see quite a few Irish come out to support the Redbreast activities over the next few days. So as for now, it's time to answer our questions about what these birds of prey and what this educational lunch is going to look like, and then we'll dive into some whiskey. So let's head on in there. Those two events were great, getting to see the birds of prey and hear the story of their rehabilitation, getting to have a pairing lunch with Billy and Dave as they talk us through the core Redbreast range and how it pairs with the different foods was amazing. I never fail to be amazed by the passion and the knowledge they have about not just Redbreast, not just single pot still whiskey, but Irish whiskey as a category, its historical importance, and the stories they've shared and they shared with us at lunch were just incredible. So I'm really excited to hear what they have to tell us tonight. We are at the third event, which is a tasting dinner at Black Lamb, a fantastic restaurant in Boston, which we're going into now. I'm going to ask Billy and Dave some questions. I'm going to hear what they have to say, and who knows, maybe they have some great news for us, but only one way to find out. Let's go into the restaurant. Billy and Dave, welcome to Boston. As a Cork man, I want to welcome you here to this side of the Atlantic.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Barry. It's great to be here.
Glad that you're here. Now, you're not just here to tour museums and see the East Coast. You're here for a different reason, I believe. Dave, can you tell us a little bit about what we're here, what we're doing tonight?
Yeah, so this evening what we're doing is we're going to talk about a new kind of exciting release for Redbreast, specifically for the American market. So what we've done is we've actually made 4 small batches of Redbreast using 4 different, I suppose, whiskey components that would be very good to represent the style that goes into the different styles of Redbreast that we produce, from 12 to Redbreast 15, Lustow, and when you think of 21 as well. So we looked at different whiskies and we decided to make 4 individual batches with the same components in all 4, but mixing them in different formulations to kind of emphasize certain flavors and aromas and a kind of taste profile that makes them all unique with their own little subtleties and differences, while at the same time being part of that Redbreast family.
Very good. And we have it here. It comes in its lovely little jacket, Dream Cask-esque jacket that it's in. Billy, can you talk a little bit about the difference between this and previous Redbreast? This is a new departure, this age and components.
Yeah, so what we've got is something that, as Dave says, we've put together, especially for the United States. We've had some say comments from Redbreast fans in the States who maybe don't have the access to some single cask.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, you'll know all about it. So this is something special that we did specifically for the States. And it's as close to what we would call a single cask as you can get without it actually being a single cask. So it is this small batch Redbreast that normally, if you're looking at Redbreast 12-year-old, we'd be looking at we could be looking at a batch size of maybe 100, 120 casks all come together. This one, we've basically picked four styles, which would be representative of the components. Let's say in Redbreast 12-year-old.
Yes.
Okay.
This is older then, right? There are older components in the 12-year-old.
There would be older components in here. Actually, probably we don't call out the age on the bottle, but the youngest component in here is 14. So it's everything over 14 years old.
And cask strength, which many people will be delighted to hear.
Cask strength, that's what we find. The Redbreast lovers now really like to feel that intensity that you get from a cask strength single pot still whiskey. And having said that, it's at cask strength and still approachable. Like we've put together 4 different batches. They all range in strength from about 50, 58, 59
that's great.
percent ABV. All very approachable, straight from the bottle. But it gives the consumer that opportunity, first of all, to experience the intensity of it at its natural strength, but then also that they can kind of customize it themselves, just add a few drops of water, if they so wish.
Right.
I would, anybody trying it for the first time, please sample it.
As it was meant to be,
as it was meant to be, and then make up your mind.
Right, and many will never move on to water; they'll stick with it at its cask strength. That's the way I take it.
That would be my feeling. Like something like this in an evening when you're at home and relaxing, put your feet up, pour a good measure of this, and make it last.
Everyone will be happy.
Yeah.
So we've seen the growth of Redbreast in the US. I think 20% growth last year, 30% in Ohio, where I'm from, all down to my own personal consumption. Why do we think that Redbreast is growing so quickly in the US? And I'll start with you, Dave.
I think there's, as you know, there's a resurgence of Irish whiskey happening at home with more distilleries opening up than there has been in, say, the last 40, 50 years. And with that just shows the popularity of Irish whiskey as a style when you look at it compared to Scotch and bourbon, for example. And we're seeing that people are definitely kind of looking into what is in the category of Irish whiskey more from the States. Yeah. And like everyone would know Jameson pretty well. We'd like to think in everyone in the country here. So they're looking for something else that would kind of, I won't say be similar, but what else is out there from an Irish whiskey style. So when you look at the likes of Jameson and you know that there's pot still whiskey in there, people say, well, what is pot still whiskey on its own? And that's when we're going into the Redbreast kind of side of things, and it is the world's kind of best-selling single pot still whiskey that's out there, and that's just very reflective of the category and the trend right now in the States. That's why we're seeing it grow, from a sales point of view, which for us we have to kind of factor that in from forecasting and making sure we are able to produce more going forward. But I think just the category as a whole is definitely resurging more than ever before. Which
is great to see, and I love the idea of getting in at Jameson and graduating through the range, maybe finding where you land, forgive the pun, where you eventually you may find yourself on Redbreast, and the familiar pot still note is there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can see what's there from a style point of view with Redbreast. So we always emphasise sherry cask
Right.
kind of contribution that you get in the Redbreast range. And we talk about dried fruits, kind of, you know, raisins, fig, dates. And then if they're looking for a different style that might be less about the wine and more about the distillate, people can look into, you know, the likes of Powers or, you know, other fortified wines like the Spot range. So there's a huge diverse portfolio in what we do, but Redbreast definitely is at the forefront of what we have here.
And I think like Redbreast as a brand has been around for a long time.
Yes.
Right since it was first mentioned in advertising in 1912
Right.
or thereabouts. And you know, up until not too many years ago, it was people who knew Redbreast didn't tell anybody else about
Right,
it.
right.
And it was kind of a secret that the people kind of found something that
Yes.
they really loved. They didn't like to spread the word because they wanted to keep it for themselves.
Should we not tell anybody, Billy? Should we not turn off the video?
we can't we can't keep it quiet any longer, you know,
once they get
because
out.
the word is out and the word is spreading, and really it's the Redbreast brand itself is you know going from strength to strength.
It's fantastic to see the US market now is going to get access to something that they've longed for, which is their own version, their own piece of the Redbreast family. So we've got 4 batches going into 3 different markets: Boston, Massachusetts, and then in California, San Francisco, and San Diego. So a number of different locations will have their own bottling. So there's, I believe there's as many as 11 labels across 4 batches, which will get collectors very excited, who are booking flights with empty suitcases from Ireland.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the challenges for the people back home this
Yes.
time, rather than
Right.
the Redbreast lovers in the States having to,
I know.
you know, been challenged to get
Yes.
things by fair means or foul across.
It was
the
an
border.
exciting project because, you know, we made the prototypes of the different batches. We kind of discussed what we liked and what we wanted to try and achieve from an individual style for each batch, and then we actually met some of the people here on the ground last year, showing them the different batches, and then they said, "Oh, I prefer B to C or I prefer A to D, etc." And it became a reality now that it's coming over, so it's good to kind of be back here and
Finally
see it in the
and
flesh.
one of the satisfying things for us is that not everybody has preferred the same batch, which was a fear that we had, that
Yeah.
our variants had been sort of maybe one-sided and
Right.
everybody preferred one. We've actually got it's the
Even
uptake has
stiff.
been
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect.
pretty well balanced, which is great for us.
I put that down to your forecasting, because you talked yesterday about your 40-year plans and your 50-year plans, so I'm going to assume it's because of your ability to judge tastes, and I'll give you the credit.
There was a nice challenge because, you know, you're only using 4 whiskey styles. You know,
Yes.
we were using, say, 2 pot distillates in different bourbon barrels, and then 2 pot distillates in sherry barrels.
Right.
But one of those distillates had originally aged in bourbon and moved to sherry.
Ah.
So we worked with those 4, either using them all for one batch or using 3 in different percentages for the other 3 batches.
Yes.
So the fear was, okay, well, we want to create them all to be, again, individual, not kind of too homogenous,
Yes.
while using the same liquid in all 4
Right,
batches. So
right.
there was a nice challenge there.
And the
and
challenge,
it's reflective in the people.
the challenge being to
choice.
keep it within that Redbreast style as
Right.
well, you know.
Of course, yeah.
So it's good to see the results.
It's great to see it landing here, yeah. Fantastic. So some quick fire questions. I asked American fans of Irish whiskey if they had any questions for you, and they came up with some fantastic questions. So we're going to do a little quick fire round. I'm going to ask you some questions. And Dave, I'm going to start with you. What is your desert island drink? You can only choose one.
No pressure here.
None.
It would probably have to be Redbreast 21. I think that would be my desert island choice.
You are on the payroll after all.
And I know what's in it, you know, so it's definitely
Okay,
one I
that's a
would
great
take with
choice.
me.
It would
Yeah.
be my choice too, actually. That is exactly my choice. Billy, what about yourself?
Well, Redbreast 21 would be up there, but I think maybe Redbreast Lustau edition. I mean, I had a big input into the creation of it and working with the winemaker in Spain. So I have a kind of a sentimental attachment to that, you know.
I love the Lustau. That's great. Dave, will there be additions to the permanent lineup of Redbreast?
There's another good question. We're always, when it comes to Redbreast, we're always looking at what else can we do with that style of whiskey that we're making. And it'd be a shame just to keep it going the way it is with those expressions if there's potential for doing something else.
Great.
What's great at the moment is we're able to do these expressions as kind of maybe one-offs and projects while we're still able to make the core range as good as we can.
Right.
But never say never when it comes to other line extensions, whether they'll be for, ongoing extensions or one-offs.
Right.
That's the tough question we need to hammer out with the marketing team to see, can we make more of something new, or are they going to be one-offs? But there'll always be things coming out under the Redbreast range.
So yes. Okay. Billy, can you promise a dream cask every year?
Well, I can answer that in two ways. I
thought you might.
I can say, yes, we have a program now in place to release a dream cask every year. Whether you'll be able to buy one or not is a different question.
Well, that was my next question. Can I get a dream cask every year?
You have to be pretty much at the front of the queue.
That's true. Online refreshing the browser every second, right? So I believe when you were over here last year, you got measured for some very fancy clothing, very fancy apparel. It would be remiss of me not to ask you to open your jackets and show us what you've got there, because I think you're wearing the brand inside, right? Show us what you've got.
We were kind of spoiled last year, and we were measured up for these suits, and I must say we're very proud of them.
Beautiful suits.
Lovely to bring back to Boston.
You know, now there's going to be a rush of people online asking where can we get Redbreast clothing. There's your line extension now for you.
There you go.
Yes, yeah. Take note.
Let me see, what else were we asked? There was a man in Ireland, his name is Omar, and he asked a question.
I think I know
Billy,
Omar.
have you adopted Dave?
That does not surprise me coming from Mr. Fitzel. Dave and I spend a lot of time traveling together, working together. I mean, that's the job, you know. I am kind of an age now within the business that people are starting to sit up and take note. You're not going to be around forever, and we need somebody to carry that mantle into the future, and like there's.
Oh, that's Dave.
That's Dave. That's Dave. There's no better guy for the job. You know?
Very good. Yeah. Excellent. Well, we've talked about the new addition to the lineup here in the United States. We've looked at it. We've talked about it. The only thing that's missing now is for us to go and taste it, and I believe we're going to do that right now. So I would like to thank you both for your time and for creating such fantastic whiskies and adding such joy to my life that I can sit down by the fire with a lovely glass of Redbreast. So thank you both for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
So there you have it, a great night of Redbreast tasting. It's the morning after now, and the blenders are winging their way across America. They're on their way to San Francisco, to California, to launch in that state and to share these 4 batches with the retailers and one on-premise client there. So there's going to be 11 different labels across the 4 batches. So for those of you that collect Redbreast and want to get the whole collection, you're going to have your work cut out for you. They will be spread across Massachusetts and California. 10 will be in off-premise retailers, liquor stores, and 1 in California will be for on-premise sales. And I don't know if they're selling by the bottle. They may just be selling it by the measure for one particular client in California. But so great to taste these 4 batches side by side, 4 very different expressions using the different components that go into it, the Redbreast that you know and love, yet quintessentially Redbreast products, no doubt about it. And there's a joy in being able to taste a whiskey of that age. So 14 years is the youngest component in these whiskies. To be able to taste those at cask strength, and in true Midleton style, tasting them at cask strength, you don't really need a drop of water. I know some of you like to add a drop, but for me they were just perfect as they were. So really excited to get my hands on them. Unfortunately, I can't get my hands on them right now because they don't land actually in Massachusetts for another 2 weeks. That 1 bottle we had last night is the only finished, or as they called it, a dressed bottle, the only one with the label. So in the next 2 weeks they'll hit Massachusetts, and 2 weeks later they'll hit California. And then I'll watch with enjoyment as all of the Irish whiskey collectors book their flights with their empty suitcases to come over here and collect their Redbreast. So it's been a great few days in Boston. I'm off to the airport now. I've got Redbreast in my belly, got Redbreast on my head, catching my flight back to Columbus. Cheers.